Hi. Oh, it is bright.
That was such a wonderful introduction with my name.
Rebecca?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, about dementia. A person with dementia is not a person who's dead and gone. A conversation with someone who has dementia is a conversation. It's still a conversation, whether it makes any sense or not. A person with dementia may not recognise you. So do you disengage? After all, what's the point? If they don't know who you are, what's the point? And anyway, you'd rather remember who that person used to be, wouldn't you? It makes you really sad. It makes you angry, it hurts your heart, and it's really frightening. And I get all of that. You're getting a turn in a minute. The person with dementia feels all of those emotions as well, all of those emotions, on top of which they feel confusion, disorientation, and often abandonment. Some people say that people with dementia are the loneliest people in the world. So Ming and I are here to talk about our dementia story, and Ming has a disclaimer.
Two things. We did a chat recently and we did questions, and a woman asked about anger with dementia. Now, this is our experience. A lot of people who have fathers, mothers, whoever, or whatever your circumstances are, know probably that people that have dementia or Alzheimer's that get angry, it's hard for them to visit them because they can be quite violent maybe. And we found this a bit troubling to answer because we hadn't experienced that, but it's probably fear, my mum answered at that last talk we did, that they're experiencing. And
but I guess we can't speak for anyone else, so it's all very well. We've been so lucky. Yeah. Anthony's personality has not changed. Well, not that much. Every now and then he'll lash out a little bit, but that, again, that's a fear thing, especially late in the afternoon.
And we are here to talk about
just our story, so
yes.
We're not speaking on behalf of anyone else, and we're not
and short track
preaching or anything.
Yes. Ideally not, hopefully. Yeah. And short-tracking people who are experiencing this now, so we can give you advice now instead of go through the rigmarole that we did for 7 years.
Okay.
And the misery and the sad and the sorrow and the bawling and all that awful stuff.
Thank you.
That's
A
right.
bit of context. Rebecca just talked about the book. Yeah, so quite strange that I would have written a book all those years ago about, Alzheimer's disease, and then with no way of knowing that I would have a husband who would succumb to Parkinson's disease dementia, which is obviously in the same family. But another bit of context, Anthony's 23 years older than me, so he's 81 now. Oh no, don't do the maths. And and we have this kind of amazing love story, which also provides the context for what we're able to enjoy now, even though Anthony's been in a nursing home now for nearly 6 years. He has other diseases as well as Parkinson's disease dementia. My mother said to me during that first year when Anthony went into the nursing home, which I have no recollection of, that first year because it was so, so heartbreaking. Oh, nearly crying. And she said, she said, you cried all year, you just cried and cried, and you wore the same brown coat every day.
My mum did wash. It's not as if...
Oh, yeah, I did.
I feel like I have to,
So I was heartbroken. Anthony was heartbroken. I couldn't manage him. He was becoming less and less able to walk and shower and everything like that. Ming, on the other hand, felt...
Yes, thank you for the obvious cue. As an adolescent and not listening to your parents, and I think all adolescents kind of slightly rebel. I didn't rebel, I was very spoilt. But I kind of thought, no, mum's not right about this and that. And I got angry at dad and not so much the disease. But then over time, and even now I still struggle at 23 with the frustration of him not being able to do the things he could do. And but now, through mum's wise words, and I'm sorry it's just taken so long, you say something and then 2 years later I seem to get it.
Yeah, I know.
And I've begun to realise mums are quite right. So any men out there, listen to your mothers. Oh, I didn't realise that would get... So I got there eventually.
Yeah, thank you, thank God. Anyway, one of the things, so the first couple of years, I wasn't coping well. Anthony was more lucid then, so it was harder to leave and go home or take him home in the wheelchair taxi, and saying goodbye was absolutely, he'd cry, he'd beg to go home. I'm sure many people in the audience have experienced that awful heartbreak of, So after about 2 years, it became totally impossible to take him out, or maybe 2.5 years. And then I thought, okay, we have to do this differently. So I started to make myself at home in the nursing home, whereas before my visits had been, I guess I'd dread the visits because I knew when I went to go home, it would be heartbreaking, so I found myself avoiding visiting. And so when I turned it around and made myself at home in the nursing home room, it was like an epiphany of sorts. I stocked the cupboard with brandy and whiskey and wine. Not for me, so that we could invite people over, and I'd have nibbles in the dolmades and avocados, and I'd have stuff in the cupboard to sustain myself, but also if people dropped in, it was like home. And I brought cutlery and glasses, and just familiar cutlery and glasses that Anthony recognised. Not to trick him back then, because he did know the difference between the nursing home and home, whereas now he often thinks he is at home. I'd take DVDs, comedy series that he likes. He loves Michael Jackson, so got the Michael Jackson DVD. And visitors like my mother, who is here, feel really welcome, and it's wonderful. And I feel content, happy in the room. It's comforting for Anthony. His eyes just light up when he doesn't have much expression because of the Parkinson's disease mask. I take my paperwork in to do. So I take my writing in to do, so that I have made myself at home there. And sometimes I actually can't wait to get there. Because, I'm often on the farm alone, all alone. And so it's actually, I don't really get lonely, but that alone feeling sometimes gets to me. Well, I suppose that is lonely. Whereas in the nursing home, there's always something happening and there are people around. So and I've made friends with all the staff, of course, so it's fun. Okay, I'm just going to give you an example of a typical sentence from Anthony, because, again, I'm talking about the dialogues that we share. Okay, this is typical. Can you put that kettle on the cat before the volcano helps us hose the garden? So that's just to illustrate the kind of thing he might say. Okay, my answer to those kinds of questions is always yes. And often I'll go out of the room and walk around and then come back and I've just done that. I've done that.
Once upon a time, I found this hard, and I think people do find this hard,
Yeah.
and I used to go, you're totally mad, and, it would always cause...
Well, occasionally, that's the thing, there's no strict one way or the other. Sometimes when I absolutely can't decipher what he's saying, especially if the words aren't even coming out, just syllables, I'll say, you talk so much crap. And he will just get that smile. He can't smile or laugh where he used to because of the Parkinson's disease affecting his muscles. But he's got this amazing slow smile, and he loves having the mickey taken out of him for some reason, always has. And the whole love thing, we never used to be lovey-dovey, smoochy-woochy couple, but now I hold his hand a lot because just that tactile contact is great. But he'll often take my hand as if this is what he'll do. He often does that. And I'll say something like, what's wrong with why don't you want to hold my hand anymore? And pretend to be hurt. And he'll say, it's just so tiring. And because he doesn't really get where he is, when I arrive, he often says something like, how do you always know how to find me? He often thinks he's at the Rose Hotel, or at a party, or a boarding school. So his orientation slips between the eras as well as places. The other day he said a beautiful thing to me. I entered the room and I came into focus and he said, "Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I was just trying to summon you." Okay, so going with the flow, what we usually do is go with the flow. So Anthony will say, "I've just run 16 kilometres, fixed all the fences," and I'll say, "Oh, that's why you look so tired," which is, of course, why contradict him? And it makes him feel good, you know, and robust. He thinks he's getting better. I say, "Yeah, of course you're getting better." He thinks he's getting skinny, that he has got a beautiful body. And I say, "Yes, well, he's pretty, like, diminished, and he used to be a bit of a macho machine, but now he's really skinny." But I don't, why criticise?
He loves his washboard, and we keep raising that up and make sure that he has his beautiful
like he loves chocolate, and I'll
intact.
be giving him chocolate, which he vacuums down, and then no more, and I don't want to ruin my beautiful body. And the way I'm saying it, those sentences actually don't come out as fluidly as the way I'm saying them, because he struggles very much with speech, and that's why I write them all down. A lot of humour, as you can probably tell. Last Christmas, I decided no presents, because Anthony doesn't really get that anymore. So Christmas Day, I said, we're not doing presents, you know. And Anthony actually pretended to be really disappointed. And I said, "Well, you didn't get me anything, Anthony." And he said, "Yes, I took a calculated risk." So he just comes out with these...
My father.
Classics. Going with the flow doesn't always work, however, because where is mum is a question that he asks every week. Now, he's 81, I think I said that. His mother has died decades ago.
I've never met his mother.
Now, usually I'll say she's home with Ming or she's visiting someone, but one week he said to me, "Why do you keep refusing to take me to see mum? Why?" And I had to break it to him. And then he was shocked. It's horrible. He was shocked, grief-stricken, and then embarrassed that he'd forgotten. And extraordinarily, the next day, he said, as I entered his room, he said, "By the way, mum is not dead." So if that kind of awkward topic, home and his mother, those topics are very difficult because they distress him. So I do diversion now. So the other day I just said, when he said, "Where's mum?" I said, "You've got such a big nose." And then he said, "You just want to see me naked." 2 minutes. Fabulation. I love the idea of fabulations. Okay, so if Anthony can make things up, I can make things up. Why not? So when he asked me, I didn't deliberately do this, it just popped out. When he asked me one Melbourne Cup day if we'd won any money, I just said without thinking, "Yeah, $20,000. However, I know this is a little bit unethical, but it popped out. I knew it would make him so happy. He's a farmer, he loves money. And his trouble is he started telling everyone. So then I had to perpetuate this lie, and I even had to lie to you.
Didn't go down with us too well, was it? 2 weeks.
He was appalled.
I thought I could bathe in $20,000 and, I don't know, buy this, that or the other. But no, my mother did lie to me about 20 grand. But once again, that had a really good effect on Dad. Even though
he still talks about it.
He still talks about it.
Maybe he hasn't got dementia after all. Food is another wonderful topic of conversation in the nursing home, as well as the real food. And my very clever way, I think, of leaving to go home now is to say, "What do you want for tea?" We make a list. I name all the beautiful stuff that he loves, crayfish, oysters, and then I go home. And it almost never comes back to bite me. Sometimes I think only twice in the last 3 years has he said, "You didn't come back." Mostly I go home, he waits expecting the crayfish and oysters, but isn't disappointed because by the time tea time comes, he's in the sundowning phase, which is the more confusing part of the day. So he's forgotten.
There's a lot of
And
lies.
it works really well.
It sounds like there's a lot of lies and deceit, but it's all for the...
It's necessary.
Yeah, yes.
We're out of time, so one last... he always knows who I am, but Ming is the first of the two of us to not be recognised.
Hilariously, if you did catch us, my little 5 minutes, or our 5 minutes of fame on the radio on ABC, that was pretty exciting. I briefly mentioned the day before I went in to see him. I wasn't looking forward to it. I wasn't not looking forward to it. Bugger. And he thought I was the hairdresser. Now, the hairdresser's a middle-aged female, quite rather attractive. And he told me, oh, you're a bit of a good bloke, aren't you? And he didn't know who I was. And I thought, that's rather nice, isn't it? But then I slowly, jogged his memory. I felt like I had to. And then he did get it that it was me, and it was nice. And I had to remind him that I came from his genitalia and all that sort of business. And stuff between me and Dad. It's funny. And he got it. But then there was that negative. Even though I got that, I'm Ming.
He wanted to go home with you.
He wanted to go home. So you're right.
But I think what I admire about Ming is a lot of people get so wounded when they're not recognised, and he's handled it so well. Okay, a person with dementia is not a person who is dead and gone. Thank you very much.
Thank you.